Hey, all right. How's it going, everybody? Hope you are doing fine out there. And this is a very different kind of stream that we're doing today. So, if you've never done this with me before, and most likely you haven't, then we're going to be doing some meditative drawing, which may sound a little strange to you. And you're not familiar with this concept, many of you, I'm sure. Many of you maybe are. I don't know. I don't know who's out there and who's done this before. But this is a meditative practice. So there's a difference between, I guess, meditation and a meditative practice. Um, with meditative drawing, you are actively doing something, and the goal is for that activity, for the thing that you are doing, to help bring you into a more relaxed state, to quiet your mind, to get your breathing under control, to relax your nervous system. And that's how it works. Now, meditation, there are multiple kinds of meditation, as you may know. There's, of course, a spot meditation, very brief, very focused kind of meditation. You can do a longer form meditation where you sit and you try and, as they say, empty your mind, or at least push thoughts through. You feel a thought coming along, you notice the thought, take note of it, move it along. These kinds of things require a different kind of mindset, a different kind of action on your part, or inaction, if you will. This is great because if you're like me and you've tried traditional meditation and it's difficult for you, you feel sometimes frustrated with what's required to be successful at it, then I think you'll really love meditative drawing. Meditative drawing doesn't require you to concentrate that hard to try and make it work. It just kind of works. And I've never done a session with anybody with meditative drawing where at the end of it, they did not feel more relaxed, more centered, a little happier, a little better, a little ready to just kind of chill and take the rest of the day a little more slowly. Okay, so there you go. So we're going to do a couple of exercises. These require no drawing skill whatsoever. And I'd love for you to follow along with me. I'm going to be designing it so that you do follow along in real time. Okay, and I will go nice and slowly. All you need is a pen and paper. You could use a pencil, but I recommend using a pen. And the reason I recommend using a pen is so that the line you draw is something you're committing to. With pencil, sometimes we tend to draw really softly and we kind of make sketchy marks, if you will. With pen, we put the pen to the paper, and as we draw, there's really no going back. The line is there, and it kind of, with these kinds of exercises, forces you to get into more of a flow state and just go with what happens. And I think that's important. So pen and paper, maybe if you want, you can draw an Adobe fresco. Just use in the sketching category, in the brushes, for pixel brushes, use in the sketching category the pen. This is a perfect tool for this exercise, okay? And if you want to follow along in Photoshop, just go ahead and open a blank document, use a regular old brush, anything small, like the tip of a pen, and that is not going to respond to pen pressure to change more or less the size of the brush, and certainly not the opacity. We just want a nice, solid, clean, fine line, okay? So up to you how you want to follow along. I personally love doing this with pen and paper, and I've done it in person many times with kids of all ages, with adults, and just using a notebook and some paper is a really great way to go. Alrighty, now, if you want to get fancy, you could, if you wish, bring along some colored pencils or something like that, or some markers, because some of these exercises, you can take them a step further, and once you've done the basic drawing, you can choose to color some of that stuff in. All right, let's say hi to some folks who are joining us. Reverb Mike says he likes to draw with a paintbrush. Well, that's fun, but I will tell you that for an exercise like what we're doing today, that might get a little complicated. All right, what's up, RB? Robert's here, Jack is here. Tor, my good friend Tor, hello, nice to see you. Umacorn and Steve and Patrick and Clever, Oliver, Raphael, Mustafa, Christelle, Lindy, Lauren, Alejandro. I hope I'm not missing anybody. Laurence, or Lawrence, I'm not sure. I think it's Laurence. Looks like a French last name, but I could be wrong. All right. So everybody, thank you for joining us. And if I missed you, sorry about that. I see Wade tuning in. What's up, Wade? Nice to see you. We're going to get started, so go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get cooking, all right? Now, these exercises are really, really slow and easy, so please, please, before we begin, get yourself in a state of mind where you do not feel like there's any reason to rush. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything except draw. And like I said up top, there is no skill required to make these work, all right? Everybody can do these, young or old, no matter the level of experience you have with drawing. So if you're ready, we're going to start with one of my favorite exercises, and it's called a cross. And I'm going to be drawing a little larger than I want you to draw. And the reason is I want you to see clearly what I'm doing. So for each of these exercises, I'll give you an idea of roughly how much space you should use on your paper to do them so that you're comfortable. So for an exercise like this, you want to be drawing in kind of an area that's about 4 inches by 5 inches or so, which I think is something like maybe 11 centimeters by maybe 15 centimeters, something in that vicinity. But you want to do what makes you feel comfortable. You don't want to do large, big, sweeping strokes with your pen. These are exercises that are meant to be done on a normal piece of notebook paper, and you can draw at a small size, all right? So for this exercise, across, first things first, I want you to take 3 deep breaths just to start. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and out. In and out. Okay. We're going to draw 5 dots down the paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These do not have to be exactly the same distance apart. That's not important. But you give them a little bit of space. Now I want you to travel over to the right, or if you're right-handed, maybe over to the left. Either one is fine. And if you look at the length of the imaginary line you've created with these dots, travel roughly that distance to one side or the other. So I'll go ahead and make another dot, roughly in line with this dot. And then I'll carry on drawing dots until I have 5 dots in a vertical line on this side. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 dots on one side, 5 dots on the other. Now, I mentioned left-handed and right-handed. If you're left-handed, you may wish to do this exercise by starting on the left and finishing, starting on the right and finishing on the left. And if you're right-handed, you may wish to start on the left and finish on the right. But you can go either way, it doesn't matter. To begin, I want you to just choose any dot on one side, and you're going to draw a line from that dot to any other dot on the other side. But the line will be curvilinear. I'll demonstrate a line, and then you can try it yourself to see what I mean. So I'll start here. Once I start drawing, I really don't want to pick up my hand until I'm done. But I can let that line just wander, maybe even loop. And eventually, I'm going to let it connect with the dot on the other side. That's why we call this exercise a cross, because we're moving across from one side to the other. There is absolutely no right or wrong way to draw this line. You just want it to loop and curve. It's a curvilinear line. Now, if you're drawing and you decide you need to pick up your hand and reposition it, that's fine too. There's no judgment here. Now, once you've drawn one line, you're going to connect another dot to another dot, always moving from one side to the other and drawing curvilinear lines. The lines will obviously cross over one another. When you draw these lines, notice how slowly I'm drawing and with intention. You can make them loop all the way around and eventually wind up on the other side. Take your time and remember to breathe. When people do exercises like this, they sometimes hold their breath while they're drawing a line. So if you catch yourself doing that, remember to exhale and inhale and keep breathing. So we'll carry on connecting dots. Just wandering from one side to the other. Remember to draw slowly. There's no hurry. Perfectly fine to cross over multiple lines. You can see some really pretty spaghetti kind of patterns here in the middle, where everything gets all crisscrossy. And when you're done, things will probably look something like this. Now, I mentioned that you could use colored pencils or markers. I'm sure you can guess what those would be for. You don't have to, of course, do anything at this point. I always like to finish the drawing by drawing a box around it, simple frame, because that makes it feel like a small work of art. If you wish, you could, of course, take some time and color in some bits. You do have those markers or colored pencils. You could really spend a good 20 minutes on something like this, choosing different colors, choosing where you want to fill in different areas. And with some of these exercises, what I find is they look so pretty at the end, but you can actually use these for things like making homemade greeting cards or even little pieces of original art that you want to give to friends or family. You put them in a frame, they look great. They're just simple abstract designs. But every time you do this exercise, it's going to look completely different from the last time you did it. And there's something really cool about that. And for those of you who like to get extra fancy, you can draw a double frame around your exercise. And I just think this always looks exquisite. And that is a cross. You can do this as many times as you want, repeating the exercise if you want to make that your meditative drawing practice. You can just do it once, and spending 4 to 5 minutes on something like this while you calm down and breathe and focus on every line is enough to calm yourself down a little bit, to relax your breathing, to give your nervous system a little bit of a break, and this is very healthy. You can do this several times a day. You could do it just once in the morning and maybe once before you settle down after work. But it's a very simple exercise to do. For those of you who really enjoy this exercise, you can make it a bigger kind of exercise by drawing more dots on both columns to start with. So instead of 5, you do 10. And of course, this will take a little longer. And of course, if you wish to add color and expand the exercise that way, this will also prolong the experience. But I think we'll move along to another exercise. This will give you kind of a taste of what we're doing. And I hope you'll agree that there's really no drawing skill involved here. Anybody can do this anytime. So I'll just check in here. Steve says, could we call this style noodling? I think so. Noor says this is a level 1000 in a snake game. Jack says adding color would be fun. Yes, it is, and I've done it before, and I've even done it with ink on paper, and the ink is waterproof, and then use watercolor, color in the spaces in between, and that looks quite nice. If you use a limited color palette, it's also really great. You could try with colored pens as well. All right, let's see. Drunk Mondrian, says Noor. I can see that. Alrighty. Let's move on to a different exercise, and this one is also going to involve connecting some dots. I like to build on this idea. This one is called Scaffold. And you're going to start by drawing crisscrossing lines in a very loose grid. And I'll show you how that goes. I'm going to draw 3 lines that are horizontal, stacked on top of one another, but they are going to be imperfect because that makes for a more interesting drawing. I'll show you. So I have the first line, just draw across. You can do this exercise roughly the same size as the first. Think of maybe a photograph that you have in a photo album. Don't draw any bigger than that. You want to be comfortable when you do these exercises and not have to move your arm too much. So 1 line here, give myself some space. Draw another one that's maybe a little longer, like that. The angles are slightly different. And I'll draw one more here, a little closer. And that completes my 3 lines that are horizontal. I'm going to cross through these lines with 3 vertical lines, ensuring that I never cross over the end of one of the lines. So I'll come inside here. 1, 2, a little shorter, slightly different angle, and 3, like this. And there is my little grid. Now, this is our scaffold for the exercise. I'm going to change the color of the pen I use for a moment so you can easily see what I'm about to do. It does get a little busy, and this will require some quiet concentration, but that's good. As I said up top, part of why meditative drawing is so effective is because the fact that you're concentrating on the drawing activity itself prohibits you from thinking about other things like what's your to-do list. That's always a stressful thing. You don't want that. All right, I'll change the color and you'll clearly see what I'm doing. Choose any point of intersection or any end of a line. We have 1, 2, 3 up here, 3 down here, 3 on the left and 3 on the right, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points where we intersect. And all I do is choose one of those points and draw a line and connect with another one, like that. Once I have connected from one point to another, I'll choose any other point and continue drawing the same line. So for instance, I could go from here to here. Go ahead and make that connection. And then maybe I'll travel from here all the way over to here. Drawing nice and slowly. And remember, I'm drawing this at a much larger scale than you normally would. If you want to use a different colored pen to do this exercise, of course you can as well. I think I'll travel all the way up to here. If your lines are not perfectly straight, it doesn't matter one bit. Remember what I said, there's no judgment with these drawings. It's not a contest, and you don't need to prove anything to anybody, especially yourself. You're just going through the exercise. In order to get the most out of this, see if you can keep your pen on the paper as you slowly draw these lines. If you need to rest for a moment before making a decision about where you want to go next, that's fine, but leave the pen on the paper. Maintaining that contact, helps you to stay in that meditative zone. Remember, when you do these exercises, to breathe. If you find yourself forgetting to do that, just pause, take a good breath, exhale, and then keep going. Now, one of the difficult things about this exercise is missing out on spots. I just missed one myself, and that's okay. There are sometimes more points of intersection than you realize. And when you miss one, just pause for a moment, spot it, and then try and get to it. I think I got them all. Now, as I was drawing, I had to change direction when I realized I was going in the wrong direction. This is the kind of thing that can actually make the drawing look more interesting. And you're not going to lose points. You're not being graded. That is not the point of these exercises, okay? And this is difficult for some people who are perfectionists or who maybe when they draw normally are trying to get everything quote unquote right. Make sure that when you do these exercises, you're not in that kind of mindset. It's important. Now, once you've finished, you can again, as with the previous exercise, choose to color areas in if you wish. That's up to you, but you may like the way it looks just as it is. And if that's the case, as with the other exercise, I always like to draw a little frame around my drawing. As I said before, makes it feel like a small work of art, and it is. It really is. This one in particular, I feel like can make a nice image for a card or for a little drawing that you want to frame, put on the table. If you like it well enough, you could always come down in the corner and sign your work. Now, normally when I do this scaffold exercise, I draw a grid with 4 or 5 lines going in each direction. And obviously, this expands the length of time that you spend on it. Today, we're doing a shorter version of it because I want you to be familiar with how the exercise works, and then you can choose to do it with 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 lines if you wish. The more complex it gets, the more you have to slow down and take your time and try and get the line to touch every point of intersection and the ends of every line on all sides of the grid that you draw at the beginning. And that is scaffold. Now, if you like these exercises, and I hope you do, and I hope you're following along, I do have an app with 18 of these exercises, with more added every quarter, called Lines of Zen. And this is a meditative drawing app where you'll hear my voice walking you through these exercises along with a video. It works on iPhone and iPad. So if that's your kind of thing, you can check it out. And let me know what you think. I'd love to get some feedback because it's something that I feel like is very unique, but I'd love to know how we could improve it. All right, so let's move on. We've done 2 exercises, and we're going to check out now a very different one. And this is less about connecting dots, as you'll see. This one is going to require a little bit more concentration and focus. And like I said before, that's a good thing. When you're forced to concentrate and to focus on the exercise, it makes it harder for you to think about other things. So I'll pause for a moment and see if we have any comments or questions. Taurus says, "This reminds me of stuff I would do in class instead of paying attention to the teacher." Well, Tor, I can relate a little bit. I was pretty much drawing Wolverine most of the time. Jack was kind enough to put a link in the chat to Lines of Zen. It's linesofzen.com. Thank you, Jack. Nora says, "I always have nothing in my to-dos." I am very envious of you, Nora. Yes, Jack, the fractal look of that exercise is pretty fun, and I agree. I do like it as well. Umacorn says, "This is relaxing." Good, that's the goal. That's the goal. RB almost fell asleep. Well, that's fine too. Nothing wrong with that. Clever, I believe this is a full hour stream. So I don't think there's going to be any band hammer. If I'm wrong about that, Ryan has just confirmed that we have a full 30 minutes left, so don't worry. There's plenty of time. PJ asked, what are the in-app purchases? That's just a subscription, PJ, but not necessary. There are 6 in there that you can do forever for free. If you really like it, you can subscribe, but obviously I'm not pushing anybody to do that. I appreciate the support, but don't worry about it. All right, so Reverb Mike says, art is meditation. Yes, art is meditation. It's meditative for sure. I always find that when I get sucked into a drawing, it's a great thing for my nervous system. I love it. All right, so moving on, we're going to do something very different now. And like I said, this will require a little bit more concentration, okay? This one is called Mirror, Mirror. All right, now some of you may have actually done this in an art class in your life and not realized that it can be used as a meditative drawing exercise. So I'll show you how it works. I'm going to draw a vertical line on the paper. Now remember, you're drawing this, if you are drawing on paper, you don't have to draw this as large as I'm doing it. This is for your benefit so you can see clearly what the exercise is. But I would say the line you draw on the paper should be no longer than maybe from the tip of your finger to maybe the middle of your palm, something like that. We're not trying to do big drawings here. These are small, notebook-friendly drawings. Things you could maybe even draw on the margins of something if you wanted to even go smaller. Now, I am a lefty, so I'm going to be doing this exercise by drawing on the right side of this line. If you're a right-handed person, you'll want to start the exercise by drawing on the left side of the line, all right? And the way this is going to work is I'm going to draw, like I said, off to the right here, because I'm left-handed, and for the righties out there, you'll start over on this side. I'm going to draw a line that is going to meander from the top of this line off to the side here, all the way down to the bottom. And it's going to move up and down and left and right and loop a little bit and change its shape. And you don't have to follow along for this part. You can watch me do it, and then you can do your own version of it. So watch carefully here. Once I start drawing, I'm just going to let this go. All right. You travel out this way, maybe loop back, maybe do an actual loop here, maybe stop, do some straight lines, some curvilinear lines. Just kind of combine things. Maybe an S curve. In and out, and up, and down, and then I'll stop like that. So I have a nice line that does a lot of different things. That's how you start the exercise. You don't have to make it quite this complex, but you'll see why the complexity is a good thing as you get better at this exercise in order to really give your mind no alternative but to focus solely on doing this drawing. And it's called mirror, mirror because now that I've drawn something on this side of the line, the goal is for me to draw the mirror image of it on this side of the line. That's why, as a lefty, I went ahead and drew over here so I could clearly see my subject when I draw on this side and it's not blocked by my hand. Now, this requires great concentration because you're going to be doing everything in the opposite direction. And it can get particularly weird when you have things like loops to navigate. But like I said in the previous exercises, if you make a mistake, that doesn't matter. You just keep going because you are not being graded. And this is purely for health benefits, this exercise and all of these exercises. It's to keep things calm, to relax your body, to relax your mind. And here we go. I'm just going to go for it. Now, if you've gone ahead and drawn your line, you're ready to go. That's great. But work at your own pace. I'm going to go ahead and give mine a try. Remember to go slowly. All these exercises are much more beneficial if you just slow way down. There are so many things we do in our daily lives that are the opposite of slow. Well, I got pretty close. There you go. So that is how you do the exercise. Now, the best thing to do with this, of course, is to do it several times. Maybe 3 times. I think 3 is a good number to give yourself a nice break, to give yourself a good little meditative session. Should probably last, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes maybe. You really stretch it out and go slowly, could be 10 minutes. None of these need to be done for longer than that to get some benefits. But if you really want to challenge yourself, you can, of course, make a line and then really do some complex and crazy stuff like this. You can crisscross the line over itself multiple times. So for those of you who are looking for a little bit of a challenge, give something like that a try and see how you go. You can get really good at this though, you'd be surprised. It's the kind of thing, once you've done it a few times, you sort of train your brain to think with that mirroring action. So for those of you who are bold and daring, you can try something like that. And that is called mirror, mirror. So how did you like that one? How did you do? I'm curious to know if that one was a little too tricky or how people did on that. My drawing with my offhand on the second side. No, Laura, but what an interesting idea. I've never thought of that. That is an interesting idea. PJ says, boss, PJ, what are the marks on these historical documents? PJ's excuse was that PJ was drawing with Kyle. Well, I hope that doesn't get you in trouble. This one makes your brain feel funny, Tori. Yes, it does. This is one of those things that you don't often do, if ever. And as a result, like I said at the top of it, the concentration that's required makes it very, very difficult and probably nearly impossible to think about anything else. Your brain is not going to be giving you any extra space for other thoughts when you're trying to mirror something like that and draw it accurately. M.E. Sagantini says, beautiful, I just got here, but it relaxed me just watching. Oh, glad to hear that. Grab some pen and paper and join along, and let's see how you go, because I think you'd enjoy doing some of these. All right, so this next one is called Circle Back. I really like this. And this one is also going to involve some curvilinear lines. And what it is a more free-form exercise. So some of the lines of Zen exercises and the meditative drawing exercises that I've created for everybody are a little bit more structured. For example, when you have a cross, you are drawing dots and you're connecting the dots. And when you draw with the scaffolding, you are connecting different points. And what we've just done, even with the mirroring, it's pretty free form, but there is still this idea of having a vertical center and moving along that way. But for this next exercise, you'll see that there really is no end point to it. So if you wanted to, you could fill an entire piece of paper with this one exercise. We're not going to spend 20 minutes doing that today, but you'll see once I get started how that could happen. All right, so this one is very simple, but it's also something that you can really make a little bit more artistic if you wish, depending on the choices that you make as you go. And I'll show you what I mean. To start this exercise, you're just going to draw a line with a simple curve. So something like this, for example, is good. And that could go in any direction, it doesn't matter. It could be a little longer, a little shorter, but something like this is a good starting point. Now this is where we start to get into the actual rules of the exercise, if you will. What I have to do from this point is draw from where I just left off another curve, a simple curve, and that curve must end somewhere along the path of the first line. So here we go. This, for example, would work. So I've stopped along a path that I drew first. Okay, that makes sense. Now this is where I have choices. The next thing I'm going to do from there is I'm going to draw another simple curve, and that curve has to stop on any line that isn't the line that I've just stopped on. So since I've stopped on this first line here, that means I only have one choice, and that's to go back to this line. So here we go. I'll go up this way this time, pass through here, and stop right there. So step 1, simple curve. Step 2, I drew a line that ended on that first curve. And step 3, I drew another simple curve that ended on the previous one. But now you'll see that I have a couple of options. From this point, I could draw another curve that ends on that first line somewhere, or I can draw another curve that ends maybe through this side of the first line, right? Or maybe back through this line right here. And from there, we keep going and we keep expanding our options. So I think what I'll do is I'll just do this. Just pass this way and stop there. All right, now, once again, more options. Now I can do this. And then from there, I go out this way. And if you want, you can even do much longer curves. Like I could wrap all the way around to here, like this. Always trying to keep a simple curve, not an S curve or anything like that. And then from here, maybe I want to pass through here to there. And then maybe up and around to there. Maybe another one this way. So by now you can see that you could just continue to expand this drawing and just keep on going. So I'll do a few more. And then I'll show you what to do when you've decided that you've made a drawing that you like and you're ready to stop. All right, now let's imagine that I'm starting to really like the big shapes, the medium-sized shapes, and the small shapes that are all happening here. My goal to finish the drawing is to reconnect with that first line, if I can, with a curve. So, in my case, I could do something like this, stop there, maybe going this way, stop there. And now from here, I want to curve up and around to connect to there. So let's try that. Taking my time, and that wraps everything up. Now what you have here at the end is really quite interesting. And there's no way to know what's going to happen when you start this exercise. It's always going to be different. And that's one of the things I really love about these kinds of exercises is no two are the same. You could do this for 20 minutes if you wanted, and just keep on moving outwards and outwards and outwards, always traveling in different directions, doing simple curves. And like I said, you could fill an entire sheet of paper with it. It's up to you. If you get into some kind of a zone and you're really enjoying it, no reason to stop. Now, once you're done, another option if you want to sort of contain everything is, unlike some of the other exercises where I draw a frame around it, although you could do that, I like to do this. I like to travel around the whole thing and draw this kind of containment shape, if you will. See this? Keeping things about the same distance away, all the way around. And just like the other exercises, you're more than welcome to color in areas. You can color the whole thing. You can use a monochromatic palette, or you can use as many colors as you want. It's totally up to you. But these look so neat, and I like if you have several of them on a page. It's just really cool. You know, there's stuff like this hanging in the Museum of Modern Art. It's just really big. Those artists really got away with murder, didn't they? All right, look, let's just sign it. Makes us feel good. And there you go. So that's circle back. Circle back. How'd you all do with that one? Let's see if we have any comments. One paper you can draw with both hands for the mirror mirror. Ooh. Robert, that sounds really, really tricky, but I'd be impressed to see that. The swirls are difficult to draw mirrored. I agree with McCorn, yeah. All right, Arshia is saying hi. All right, thanks for joining us. Okay, now, we've got just enough time for me to show you one of my favorite little exercises. And this one is going back to something I used to do when I was in elementary school. And I think I'll have time to show you a little bonus exercise if you're ready for it. All right, so you're gonna draw a rectangle. I'll make mine pretty small here. Could be a square, whatever you want. Square is a kind of rectangle, right? And what you're going to do is choose any side and draw to any other side with a line, like that. Now choose any other side and draw a line that stops and touches that first line. Now you could do a couple more if you want. I'm only going to do one more just to demonstrate this. I think I'll do something like this. There we go. So I've divided this rectangle into 4 segments. Like I said, you could do more. You could do one here, maybe one there. Nothing overlaps, right? Everything stops, terminates wherever another line was drawn. And I'll choose any one of these. Zoom in a bit so you can see this really clearly. This is a shape, see that? And this is a shape here. And this is a triangle shape. All right, so let's do this. I'll just draw a little dot on this line here. And what I'm going to do is draw a line from that dot. And it's going to stop wherever it meets another line. But check this out. I'm going to keep drawing lines from the dot outwards like this. The lines are radiating outwards from this one point. See that? And they stop whenever they meet another line. And it might not surprise you to hear that the name of this exercise is radiate. You just keep going around and around, and eventually you'll run out of space. And what you do is you pick any other area and do the same thing, but in a different direction. So look, why don't I pick a point like here, draw myself a little dot there, and here we go. Radiate out from that point. Like so. And you do this until you have filled in each of those segments that you drew. And this one really looks nice when you color it. You can do alternating colors all the way around, but the effect you get when all of them are filled in is really, really lovely and could be great for a card or for a little art print you want to make for somebody. I'm just going to jump ahead for a moment because I want you to see again how nice it is to draw yourself a little frame and make it feel like a small work of art. Now, I'll leave you to finish those on your own time. There's one more little thing I want to show you, and that is a little mascot I like for my meditative drawing, and that is GeoKitty. So, if you want to draw GeoKitty, let's do it. I'm going to draw two little lines that are about the same distance away from one another as if we were drawing a square. So line 1 and line 2. If I were to connect these, we'd probably have something like a square. We're going to connect them diagonally, corner to corner like this. Very nice. And then we'll take this line and we'll draw the same length and then a little longer. Same length and a little longer. Now we're going to crisscross those like this. This one's going to go down here to the center and then up to meet this one. You could draw from this side or that side. And we'll just close this off like that. All right, now next, from here, we're going to draw a slightly different angle like this, and like this, and like this, and this, and then up from these corners, and up, and up, and over, and over, and connect. And look at this, folks. We've got GeoKitty. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the only little curve in the whole drawing is the tail. You can doodle that to your heart's content. All right, now, I hope you enjoyed this session. I know it's a little different than what we normally do, but do any of these exercises anytime you want to calm down, give yourself a little break, give your nervous system a break, and give yourself a little piece of Zen. Check out the app, lionsofzen.com, and hope you like it. Thanks for hanging out with me. I had a good time, and this should set you all off into your weekend feeling a little bit more relaxed. And I'll say ciao for now, everybody. Take care.